Tragedy sends one Miami Valley woman on a mission to figure out why her life was spared.
A driver who was speeding and texting left her scrambling to start over. Only on 2, Holly Samuels has her message for other drivers and her bright outlook on what's to come.
And I had a day off work and it was sunny out, it was nice, so I was going to meet some friends and just have a good day, you know.
It was April of 2011, and Amy Eckert of Lebanon was driving down a country road in Alabama, where she was living at the time.
Speed limit's 35. I was going around 35.
But Eckert's spring cruise was cut short when an oncoming car crossed into her lane, hitting her head on.
They say she was going about 75.
Officials say not only was the driver speeding, she was also texting. While Eckert doesn't remember much about the crash, her scars now tell the story.
I have metal in every limb. I have a stent in my heart because the impact ripped the aorta from my heart.
Eckert had her leg amputated at the knee, but what likely left the biggest hole in Eckert's life can be seen in this x-ray taken just after the accident. The tiny bones to the right of her spine belonged to her unborn child, Gabriel. Eckert was 6 months pregnant.
He'll never get to know me. I never got to touch him. I always feel the loss. That's always there. But just, I don't want to forget him. You know, I always want to keep his memory.
To do that, Eckert has had to determine why she is still breathing.
There's a reason, you know, this all happened, I think. I think God was definitely looking out for me. He wasn't ready to take me yet.
Her answer to moving on is a message for all drivers to prevent another heartbreak.
I'm trying to make the best of a bad situation, advocating for texting and now amputees, and just trying to pass that message. You know, it's just not worth it.
Such an important message. That was Holly Samuels reporting. Eckert's injuries forced doctors to perform a hysterectomy after the crash, so she is not able to have any more biological children. As for the woman who hit her, she got a ticket for causing the crash.
Good evening and welcome to this episode of Solutions of Success. This is a very informative episode, but it's also a very sobering episode. As you saw by the prelim that we played, that was a video that was taken from a news station, a real life incident. The two guests this evening, Georgia State Trooper Andy Gideon, will be sharing some of those sobering moments that have happened here in our area. Aaron Crane with State Farm will also be sharing with us how to keep teenage insurance rates low so that they can enjoy the privilege of driving safely. Welcome to tonight's show, both of you.
Thank you.
Trooper Gideon, the opening of the show was pretty sobering. Even the young people who will meet in moments later, it was stunning to everyone because everyone thinks it can't happen to me. Although I understand that 23%, like 1.3 million crashes in the United States, involve cell phone usage or distracted driving.
Yes, ma'am. That's a large cause of crash because there's so many distractions between texting on the phone and other things that go in the vehicle now in our daily lives. So that is it's just distracting and people don't pay attention to the roadway.
And that's a shame because that's a major, you said the number one cause of teenage death is?
Right, other than no illnesses or illnesses or anything like that, the number one cause of death for that age group is auto crashes or vehicle crashes.
Scary because if you go down the road, that's what you see right there. Aaron, welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome to Fort Oglethorpe, new business owner, operator, State Farm insurance agent. Mm-hmm. And right here in the city of Fort Oglethorpe is where she's located. Yeah. So make sure you look Aaron up. Erin's here to tell us about teenage drivers and rates. I've got a teenager at home. Insurance rates are something else when you're talking teenagers.
They are astronomical when you're talking about a young driver. They're very dangerous and they think they're invincible, and they get distracted easily. So with that combination, insurance companies think, we're going to hedge our bets and make sure that it's expensive so that those who really want to drive must afford to before they can legally. So we'll talk about how you can save. I have a couple discount programs that I can talk about and how to keep your grades up to save money on insurance.
Definitely. And all that seems to go hand in hand. Grades, your attendance, your discipline in schools, all that goes hand in hand. But that's not a problem with our young guest this evening. From Lafayette High School, meet Jade, Darlene, and Courtney, our panelists tonight from Lafayette High School. Hello, ladies.
Hi.
And you can tell by looking at these young ladies, Trooper Gideon and Erin, we've got some good girls in the audience tonight. And they have some important questions they're going to ask both of you regarding teenage driving. You ready, girls?
Yes, ma'am.
Fire away.
So with insurance, I was wondering, I'm diabetic, and I was wondering if medical history combined with being a teenager, how bad it is for my parents, because I'm lucky enough to not have to pay it myself yet.
Well, medical history has nothing to do with your auto rates, which is good, which is wonderful, because some people wouldn't be able to drive.
Yeah, I probably
in
wouldn't.
that event. It does have to do if you're looking for life insurance. So that's a different story, different topic altogether.
I'll wait for that.
Medical history has nothing to do with auto rates at all.
That's great.
Good question. Trooper Gideon, we're always hearing about accidents where someone blacks out and doesn't even know what's happened. Medical history is important when driving.
Well, in our case, it is when we do an investigation on a crash. A lot of times, a lot of those can mimic those that have these type of illnesses, like especially, like you said, you take insulin, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So they'll have to go into their shock, and they might not have their insulin, or they have an episode, which a lot of those symptoms mimic somebody that's impaired to drive. But once we investigate it, we find out that their blood levels and different things have been spiked or low, where they have passed out, they don't remember really what happened, or they become very ill and they got stopped before that, but their driving was very erratic to that point. But we do find those where we find that once we get all the tests and look at the EMTs and go to the medical staff, it's because of that blood issue, or certain medical conditions can cause that. And we do find those pretty frequently that they are involved in crashes.
It's good to know too, when you get in the automobile, to make sure that you've eaten properly, you've taken care of your health before you get behind the wheel, because it's not a big toy.
No, because everything you do in a vehicle is divided. You steer, you brake, you accelerate, so all your attention is divided that. So the more things you put in the vehicle and you divide your attention, because that's what driving a vehicle is, you divide your attention among multitasking. Well, now that you add other things, illnesses, or if you control those, they're fine, but other things like intoxicants, then that's where we get into other issues, and distractions and cell phones and texting.
We talk about distractions, and now Darlene brought up medical. 5 seconds. A driver going 55 miles per hour who all of a sudden for 5 seconds is not paying attention has traveled the length of a football field.
Actually, they probably travel further. If they're traveling 55 miles an hour, and I'll just give you some numbers on that just in general. Let's don't think it in 55 miles per hour. Everybody thinks miles per hour. We're going 55 miles an hour. Let's think about feet per second, because that's what happens. It's like, well, he was only 10 feet from me when he pulled out in front of me. Or let's think about that. In the football field, 100 yards or 300, you add it up, it's all in that math there. But at 55 miles an hour, you're doing 80.6 feet per second. So that's how fast you're traveling in 1 second. Okay, now take that, you're doing 5 seconds, you done traveled 5 times that, right? We're 400 feet. Now, say you're texting or driving and not paying attention, you done averted your eyes probably 2 to 3 seconds, and we're just saying that just to look down or adjust the radio or different things, or look out the window, hey, that's a nice house. Just these are all distractions when you're driving. But up ahead of you, you ain't looking down the road. There's a vehicle that's come out, and they starts to pull out. Well, when you look up, the vehicle has traveled into your path. Now, if you're traveling 55 miles an hour, you didn't see that vehicle or anticipate it, you're still traveling at 80 feet per second. Time you realize it and look up, most people, a quick reaction time is 3/4 of a second. Most time it takes people a second or a second and a half just to react to it. Then your vehicle has to react to it. Now we're already about to 2 seconds. So like I said, you're already traveling 55 miles an hour. You're already traveling 80 feet per second, and they're only 100 feet away. There's no way you can stop. So that's feet per second versus miles per hour. But that feet per second really breaks it down to say, I'm going this fast, time it takes you to react, and the time it takes for you to apply the brake and the vehicle to start to slow, you've done traveled that distance in 2 seconds.
Well, it's amazing how quickly and how it just takes that fraction of a second
A second is
to be fatal.
That second you traveled 80 feet. That's without anything, without taking your foot off, deceleration, slower speed, even braking. You've traveled 80 feet. 80 feet. Now, that's what we get into a lot. So, well, I didn't see them, but I understand that. But that 80 feet's in 1 second. You still got to put your foot on the brake. The vehicle has to start slowing. Now the reduction, it'll slow fast, but you done traveled that 1 second. You done traveled it.
And that's if there's nothing in front of you that
Right.
abruptly
Correct.
stops you.
Correct.
And that's where the fatal part comes in, as we saw on the preliminary video for that young lady. The longest eyes off the road, it doesn't have to be a cell phone. Like you said, it could be the radio, anything can make a big impact, a big difference. Erin, you were talking to the girls about ways of keeping the rates low.
Yes.
What would you tell the girls about operating vehicles and the audience at home paying attention to driving? What impact on their insurance rates will one accident have involving distracted driving?
It can be very expensive, and then if you have multiple infractions, say a ticket for speeding or a crash, you're looking at possibly getting canceled on your insurance. Most teenagers have insurance through mom and dad, so your insurance coverage is really being extended to you by the responsibility of your parents. And financially, they could be held liable for everything you do while you're in that vehicle. So if there's a crash and it's your fault or the teenager's behind the wheel, that's their fault. Your parents can ultimately be held financially responsible and be sued in a court of law for whatever damage or wrongdoing you cause in a crash. I have an example that I can use. I personally helped a young lady. She got into a head-on collision with grandparents, two elderly people. They died on impact. Her grandparents were the ones who had her on their insurance, and they were sued. The lawsuit took about 8 years to resolve, so we have time involved in a court of law, and ultimately the grandparents had to pay out $1 million in a settlement at the end of the day. And I don't know a lot of people that have $1 million just hanging around. So it's a very big responsibility, not only in charge of your own life and whoever's in the passenger in the vehicle, but also financially for the people that have you on their insurance when you first start out.
Yeah. My parents used to always say, you've got to drive careful because you're driving with everything we have. Everything we have. And that instance that you just told us about illustrates what I was always told.
Yeah.
And that's the need for responsibility.
Yes.
Not allowing a child to get behind the wheel if that child has not demonstrated he or she is mature enough and responsible enough. Just being 16 is not a license to be behind the wheel.
Correct. There's steps that you go through, and there's steps that actually these students will have to do before, if they have not already got their license. They call that the Joshua Law. The Joshua Law, they have to go through the program. You have to go through the program and get that signed off that you've had the driving training and different things. To do that before you can go to driver services, which issues the license, you've got to show you've completed that. That was a law that come in that effect to give some more training just other than going to taking the test and saying, okay, you've got a learner's license now, or later on you've got your actual license to drive without someone accompanying you. but that's where that Joshua law came into effect, where the parents are held a little more responsible in the sense that they have to sign off on that, and they actually, that's a signature they have to turn in to say you've had this, you've had some nighttime driving. It's kind of, it's more into the fact to kind of develop the person, the young driver, to kind of be ready a little bit for, the road.
To actually take possession of the vehicle on their own. Is my understanding when a 16-year-old first receives license, that driver may only have close family members in the car for an amount of, it's a graduated license.
Right. What they would receive is a Class D license. Class D license is it's a license before you, and Georgia started this years ago due to that. And basically a Class D license, what that does, that brings into effect certain things, the provisions that a student must do, which you get at 16. At 18, you can go to what they call a Class C license, which takes away some of those restrictions. But as a Class D license, as you do it, the provisions for that, what you have to do is, when you get the Class D license, you have to, they're graduated to the other. And in doing so, when you get that for the first, they can't drive after from 12 midnight to 6 in the morning. So, now used to, there was an exemption on that when it first came out. Used to, they'd let you, if you was working, a school function, a church function, they would let you, give you that exemption, but they found that they really weren't at those functions in general. So they changed it and said there's no exemption. Now you can be with the family members. So from 12 to 6, there's no driving for a Class D driver. Secondly, the first 6 months after you get that license, all you can have is yourself or family members. You can't go, used to, as some of us older folks know, you'd run down to your friends and say, hey, let's go down here and we'll go get a hamburger. Can't do that no more. You got to have just family members with you. After the next 6 months, you can have one person, and then the rest can be family members.
Okay.
Then after that subsequent 6 months, you can have up to 3 other ones and yourself in another family. So you can have up that 3 at a time with that graduated license of a Class D. So it works this way to let you learn, because you know how everybody talks, and they're just distracted because you're talking in the car. Mm-hmm. They found that, everybody would get in the car, and we'd have these collisions where you have 3 or 4 children or teenagers in the car, and they're in a crash, and they just got their license in the last few months. So it gives them that time to develop a little better versus just putting them out saying just spread your wings and go, in the sense of that.
That's a great thing to do. Trooper Gideon, what happens if a student is caught breaking one of these rules?
Well, that's a restriction. A lot of times that's going to depend on, say, how the officer deals with it. A lot of times I'll call the parents and say, do you know? And they say, oh, I didn't know they're supposed to be at home. Which a lot of times that gets more attention than me doing something other than they may come get the vehicle. But that's a restriction which you're violating the restriction. So that's a restriction that you violated. So that's actually a violation of the law for doing that. What I also find is that, that doesn't change. You have to go get your next class license. It's not an automatic thing to go to the next graduate of Class C, which affects you. Whereas, say you've graduated high school and you've been in college for a year or 2. I've come in contact with individuals late in the evening or early in the morning, whichever way you want to kind of look at it, and actually they can't drive unless they go there and have it actually changed. They review it, look at it, make sure everything's good. They're actually in violation of the law, and they're 20 years old, but you drive with a class that you last had, so they've got to go and have that changed.
Okay. Aaron, does the insurance company, do they monitor the license rate of the teenager?
As a Class D versus Class C? No, what we do is we tie in the driver's license number and we monitor the motor vehicle history report. So if, let's say, you're driving and you get a ticket and that ticket comes up on your license, the next rate, the next premium renewal period, the next 6 months that you actually renew, that will be rated accordingly. So your rates may go up if there's a motor vehicle infraction on your license.
That's definite incentives, knowing the cost of insurance. That's definite incentive to parents and to teenagers not to break those rules.
No.
Definitely. Ladies, what's your next question?
Okay, what if the incident or crash wasn't your fault? How would the insurance work then?
Typically speaking, if the incident is not your fault and the law enforcement officer writes a report that says it's not your fault, then the other person would be held liable for that incident, and you shouldn't have an infraction. Now, granted, there are circumstances where you may have an infraction and it be a small one. Maybe you didn't brake in time and you did hit someone, but someone else hit you in the back too. So they caused the crash, but you still hit the person in front of you because you were too close. You could get an infraction at that point. It's all up to the officer that comes to the scene.
And when we investigate the crashes, we look at that, how, say, traffic may have stopped and you stopped behind the vehicle, but say the third party or the other vehicle behind you, they didn't stop in time and hit your vehicle, which pushed your vehicle and their vehicle, which damaged the other vehicle. So it's going to be, you were stopped. So a lot of times that might be rules said that third vehicle caused you to strike that vehicle. So it's going to kind of come back because you were not doing anything other than just stop. So, but we look at, sometimes there's a crash and then it happens, but then later on, after there's a period of time, there'll be another crash. But then we have to look at it and say, well, this one was close here, but this one got too close here. Because then you may have two separate crashes, and they could be both the same as saying they got too close and they couldn't stop in a timely manner.
Good question, Courtney. Anything else?
Say you have like a sibling who's also a teenager. Do they even make the rates go higher? Because I have an older brother.
Yeah. Well, it depends on, for State Farm, it depends on if your sibling is still living in the same household.
He is.
Okay, so if he's not a very responsible driver, it's all, and your parents still pay for him?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, well then, they're all in one household, and all the rates are determined by per person. So your brother may have higher rates because of his driving history. No.
He's a good driver.
Okay.
I'm better though.
You're better. Wonderful.
Oh, dear.
We love it. But it would be unique to the individual.
Okay.
Great. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for staying tuned through this portion of our show. Now we've got to take a moment and pay the bills, but pay particular attention to Dr. Carl Peterson's ad. Dr. Peterson is still offering that springtime bleaching special for Watching Solutions of Success. What is normally a $380 package is now just $199. If you call, make your appointment, and tell them you saw it on Solutions of Success. Also, Republic Services are offering City of Fort Oglethorpe, City of Chickamauga, and City of Rossville 2 free months of recycling if you call them and sign up for a recycling service. Save the planet. This is Earth Month. These are some messages from those people who care about you. Solutions of Success.
Dear Mom and Dad, words cannot express how sorry I am for letting you both down. You raised me well. You taught me to be smarter than this. You warned me during all those hours of driving practice not to drive distracted, but I didn't listen. I made the choice to drive with distractions, and it cost me all right. It cost me my life. Mom, Dad, I will always love you and be watching over you, but I need you to do something for me. Warn others about the dangers of distracted driving. Tell them to turn off their cell phones before driving, starting September 17th, as part of 17's 2-second turn-off day. It takes 2 seconds to turn off a cell phone, but less than 2 seconds of distracted driving to get in a fatal crash. I don't want anyone to go through what I put you through. All the pain, the sorrow, the grief, the wishing that you could have prevented all this from happening. I may be gone now, but please don't let this happen to anyone else. Discourage distracted driving. Love you both dearly. Your beloved daughter.
Wait! We can recycle that! Rosie the Recycler!
Hello, kids. If every American just recycled 1/10 of every newspaper, then we could save 25,000 trees per year.
Wow!
Remember, we did not inherit this earth from our ancestors. We're borrowing it from our children. Be a part of Keep Fort Oglethorpe Beautiful. Call the number you see at the bottom of your screen now to become a part of Keeping Fort Oglethorpe Green. This is Council Lady Paula Stinnett. God bless and keep America beautiful.
We've got the power.
Uh-oh, Dad's gonna be mad.
If you find yourself in need of an attorney, call the law offices of Robert L. Stoltz. From auto crashes to forming a corporation, attorney Robert L. Stoltz can help you through some of life's ups and downs. Call him at 858-0023 or visit his offices at 376 Cloud Springs Road, Fort Oglethorpe. Make a date every Friday and Saturday evening to go to the American Legion Post 40 in Ringgold to
Play bingo. We love bingo.
It's fun for kids of all ages.
Bingo is for veterans.
Great food, lots of fun, and money to be won.
Bingo! Bingo!
Bring your family and friends to the American Legion Post 40 in Ringgold. The Walker County Sheriff's Office supports high school graduation. Be smart. Stay in school.
Welcome back to Solutions of Success. The show is meant tonight to demonstrate the need for caution before operating a vehicle. Trooper Gideon, you were telling me about an accident, and I believe you brought some photographs that you wanted to share regarding distracted driving and how important it is that operators of vehicles focus on the road.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell us about this.
Basically, this is a class I'm on. It was June of last year of 2014. And basically, it was 24 westbound. This vehicle was traveling 24 westbound, and single vehicle. Nobody else involved at this time. The only reason we know certain things is that there was a half a text in the vehicle after we investigated it. It was a half a text. The vehicle left the road of the gore. If you ever notice on the interstate, you got your on and off ramps. That space in between that's called a gore. That's where you don't drive. Well, he traveled through the gore. When he traveled through the gore, he struck the guardrail in. He traveled back through the median after the guardrail in, and he came to rest back in the median between the two. And actually, this person it took those out and actually parts of the vehicle because of the impact. But he was, at that point in time, this person didn't survive this, but he struck that guardrail. And he traveled that far, and like I said, he was traveling, and there'll be some pictures showing, sometimes they'll slap, and you'll see kind of the speeds they were traveling, and so you can see the indicators that he was traveling about the 65, 70 miles an hour. And that's all still there from where it happened. Now, it took the steering wheel and all that, the drive, and that's kind of afterwards kind of how he hit it from the left front of the vehicle. Of course, when they ended up, he didn't survive that crash, but also it took the whole floorboard out of that vehicle. And that's just one vehicle as he was traveling. So I can tell you that specific event, and that's just something recent, there are distractions all the time. And I can tell you for a fact that distraction led to what happened there.
Wow, that's somber thought. And this happened, you usually travel Walker County area, is that correct?
In Lafayette, which I'm posted out of, we have Walker and Dade County, which that's our primary. We can go anywhere, and sometimes we go into Catoosa, and in that area they kind of overlap it this way. But so we investigate the crashes there a lot of times, depending on where we're at, and sometimes we'll help the other post, which is in Dalton. If they're tied up, we can kind of help them out too to cover crashes if they get really busy in certain days.
So this is just to let our viewers know that this happens here at home. This is not, it happens to everybody else, not me. I can do this. I got this. It happens here.
Every day.
Every day. What is the law regarding texting in Georgia?
Actually, there's always been a law in Georgia, and it's always been the driver shall use due care while operating a motor vehicle. But what they did is just add specific wording to that law in 2010. The actual law is 40-6-241, which is driver shall use in due care while operating a motor vehicle. It's always been there. That means anything you do while operating a motor vehicle, you operate it to where you don't strike someone else, another vehicle, property. You do it with due care, not doing something in the car that causes you maybe to be distracted.
But I'm at the stop sign. I'm at the stoplight. I can look down. I can text.
Well,
I've got a few minutes, right?
And that's been addressed. And so say, let's talk about what driving while under the influence of alcohol or drugs. Well, you got to be in actual physical control of that vehicle. But now, if you're sitting in that vehicle and you drove it to this point and you're still sitting in that vehicle and you drove it there, you were in actual physical control of that vehicle. You had to get there. Or it's sitting there running because maybe you fell asleep because of this. But if you're at a stoplight, traffic's there, you stop. Yeah, okay, well, I'm going to do some texting right now. Traffic's not moving. But what happens then? Traffic does move. You don't see it move. Then once you realize it, you may have to make an abrupt change, and you haven't looked at your area to say, well, I need to make this change lane, because now you've took that time. So it still applies that if you stop, it's still not time. You can't text.
Okay,
So it's
no
still
matter
like you're
what.
operating that motor vehicle at that time, so you need not to do the texting. And as their age, as that graduated license, if you're 18 in Georgia or under the age of 18, you cannot use any electronic device.
No cell phone.
No cell phone.
No iPad. Nothing.
They can't use any electronic device in the vehicle.
Hence the fact that it takes 2 seconds to turn off your electronic device.
No. So that applies to them. Once the 18 of age or older, then you can use the cell phone, but then you can't go to the texting or use something like an iPad or a computer in the vehicle. So any electronic device up to your 18, you can't use it in the vehicle. Now, there's exemptions if you're calling an emergency or something like that, but in that case, you take that case by case, but you can't get on the phone and drive around and talk in the phone. And it's actually everybody in the vehicle is not supposed to use it under that age because it's a distraction.
True.
You see what and that's the same as sometimes like we talk about open containers in the vehicle, as Georgia did. You might say the driver's not has it, but it's a temptation. So they kind of put the temptation away because of younger drivers.
Just turn it off. Make it simple. Turn it off. When you get to your destination, turn it back on. Call mom and dad. I'm here safe. But don't have it on in the car. Very good. So that's the laws in the state of Georgia as they apply to teenagers and adults. But overall, it's just better. Turn it off. Don't deal with it. Ladies, I think you had some questions regarding your school and insurance rates.
It's your turn, Jade.
This is for insurance. Depending on the type of car you drive, would your rates go up?
A lot of the rating, and I'm not a rating person, I'm not an underwriter for State Farm, but I do know a little bit about it. A lot of the rates have to do with how long you've had that vehicle and how long you've gotten to know the behavior of that vehicle and how long you know that the brakes are safe on that vehicle. It's really a relationship between you and how long you've had it and how familiar you are with how that vehicle's going to stop, how it's going to accelerate. The turning radius, a lot of that has to do with, a brand new vehicle is like having a brand new friend. You got to get to know it. Then a lot of it has to do, again, with if you're trying to get discounts, if you're trying to save money, buying a safe vehicle. There are certain vehicles that are safer than others. Let's just give you a wild example, a Mustang. I'm not doing a commercial for Mustang, but they're fast and they're speedy, and there's a temptation there to go really fast. And then there's also, it's widely known that Volvo is a pretty safe car. There are some vehicle rating discounts for safe vehicles versus your sports vehicle or your big monster truck on 12-inch wheels, whatever, however high, 12-foot wheels. That's dangerous. So there are certain stipulations and certain ways that you can be safer than others with your vehicle choice.
And to add what she just said, and she was talking about the events like violations, to add that other as a part of your graduated license, even up to your 21 years of age. So if your speed, as we talk about speed, if you're doing 23 more of the posted speed limit in Georgia, we ain't even talking about super speeder. As you're at that age or graduate under 21, that's an automatic suspension of your license in the state of Georgia. For under that 21. And that stipulation don't go away till you're 21.
And
So-
if you get a suspended license, your insurance gets canceled.
And there's some other under the 18, like reckless driving, leaving the scene of accident, some other things that do that. It's automatic suspensions. But I'm just saying, we find that with some college students that maybe just went off to college. They may be, in a hurry where they're on their way back home or going to and from, and this might be their first citation, but this one, and I'm saying because they were in a certain place and they were above that posted beat, and it can be an automatic suspension of that. So there's other things till you turn 21 that affect that.
Wow. But it's only if I get caught, right? It's only if I get caught. My parents will never know. Well, let me tell you, parents, how you can know. There are things called drive cams now. Investigate a drive cam. This monitors a driver's activity. It provides real-time feedback, and some of these have video. AT&T have drive mode. There's a text-free driving pledge. But many of the insurance companies, I know Nationwide does, I have a title tale on my car. It tells how fast my car went, how far it went, when it is still, when it's on, when it's not on, if it has hard braking or fast acceleration. And it all comes to my email address. So parents, I encourage you to put those devices on your teenager's car. It will really help you know how your child is operating the vehicle and how safe your child is while operating the vehicle. It can save a lot of financial issues and a lot of heartbreak issues from something unfortunate. If your teenager knows that you are capable of seeing how the vehicle is operated at all times, it does make a difference.
It does. State Farm has something very similar. I brought it with me today. It's called the Drive Safe and Save. It's not just for kids. It can be for anyone. But this is wonderful for my parents with young drivers. It's this little device that plugs in right underneath the steering wheel to monitor. It's called telematics, really, is what it's called. We use Verizon. That's our provider at State Farm. And you can connect it with OnStar. You can connect it with InDrive. A lot of newer models of vehicles have the different kinds of GPS and just help when they call. When you get into an accident, you call, you press the button. Hello, this is OnStar. Well, we use OnStar if you have OnStar in your car. The other one we use is InDrive and Sync. That's the other one, powered by Microsoft. So this goes on this visor, and when you plug it into the bottom of the steering wheel, and this is powered by a cord, a power cord in the car. And this gives you one button to touch to State Farm, one button to touch for 911, and it also gives you a speaker so that you can use hands-free and Bluetooth whoever you need to talk to on the phone. So you don't have your phone up to your ear, you can actually talk through this. So it's pretty awesome. It gives you Bluetooth when you don't have one. And it also gives you a discount. So for the first 6 months with State Farm, it's tracking your driving. And it's also seeing those items that you talked about, acceleration, hard braking, using your blinker when you should be. A lot of, it watches your speed and how many miles you drive, and you need an email address for it to track it. But parents love it because they get to see where their kids are going, what time of day they're driving, and how often they're driving, how safely they're driving. And it gives them an accountability piece that they would never have had before, to say, okay, give me your keys because you're not being responsible with this vehicle. So it's a really good tool to use.
I like it. It even helps when you take your car in to have it fixed and you think your car is being right there at the automotive repair place and somebody's deciding to joyride in your car. Happened to me. And that's how I caught them. That's awesome. Yeah. Very interesting. Trust me. Very interesting. All right.
You said something, girls, one of you asked something about school and insurance. What was that about?
I was wondering, we did several programs, like I know some troopers came in talking to us, and we took health tests at school. I wonder if those actually affect our insurance. There was the Joshua Law, we learned about that at school. And there's other tests that we had to take in our attendance. Do those really factor into our insurance?
The insurance part, we like to look at good students that have good grades. There are a couple different programs that State Farm has specifically to offer a discount. The good student discount if you have a 3.0 or better. And in order to get a 3.0, you got to go to school and study. So attendance does tie in. Good students with good attendance get good grades. I mean, that's just common sense. But we also do we have a steer clear discount, and what that does is you log your mileage, and you can opt into it as soon as you get your license. It's at 16, and you can continue doing the steer clear logging until you finish the entire program. It's a 32-page journal and booklet that you log 20-minute trips or more. And you have to be with someone if you have a learner's permit, and you have to have the same rules and restrictions for the Class D license. And you can continue getting this steer clear discount until you turn a certain age, which is 26, or until you get an infraction. So we take it away if you get into a wreck, or if you get a ticket. We take away the good student driving discount, but you can continue to get the grades. So as long as you get the grades, and as long as you're in high school or college, up until age 25, you can get the good student grade discount for academics.
That's good.
Well, any discount you can get, especially one that furthers your educational endeavors, you can't pass that up. That's definite incentive for young people.
You know that the Class D license, it also has a provision for attendance in school, correct?
Yes, sir.
Do you know what that is?
No, I just know about it, but I'm not sure if it's
Well, there is, part of that Class D graduated license is if you have 10 unexcused absences, or 10 times, unexcused, or you didn't show up for 10 days, and you hold a Class D license. Of course, the school initiates this by sending it into driver services. Or, say at 16, you decide you don't want to attend school anymore, but you've got a Class D license. Those licenses become suspended for that whole year until that time, or till you can reach the age of 18.
Definite incentive to keep kids in school.
So there is a provision. So it's that 10 days unexcused, 10 days you don't, you just don't come to school, or also that provision if you just quit school before you're a certain age and you've got the license. Of course, they submit that out to the school through DDS, which then at time would report that and suspend that status.
I love the way the school system partners with so many other entities for the benefit of the student. Even though sometimes the students don't think it's their benefit, that's why we do it. It's for the benefit of the student, to keep you safe. So it's a very important thing. Speaking of safety and students, when do you find that there's more accidents, more children on the road?
Well, like a lot of times we'll find accidents, especially as it gets, spring and sunny, and of course then you're going to have proms and different things, and school's starting to let out. We seem to kind of get an influx of our new drivers, and then we have a lot of single cars, and then of course then they get out and the prom's coming up, so everybody's having a good time. So, that's when we see a big influx, especially of the younger drivers getting out, and I guess you can say getting out and wanting to get out and drive the car and meet their friends.
Exactly. This morning I was fortunate enough to attend a meeting with Phil Ledbetter, who's the Catoosa Family Collaborative. So parents and students, be looking for these signs. Be the wall between teens and alcohol. Be firm, be clear, be consistent. Prom time, as well as spring break, etc., are times when students do tend to have a little more difficulty. And this is just a reminder that's put out. Just be very diligent with your students who are driving right now.
And I know in some of the schools they may have been participating. I've been in some, they call them Ghost Out, and different programs they do to show that. And like I said, the alcohol, it's a totally different thing when we get in. Now we've talking about distracted driving and texting, which mimics the same thing as intoxication of alcohol and drugs. Well, now we're combining texting, phones, driving a vehicle, and they're also now intoxicated. The laws change for everybody that's under 21 years of age. Do you know what it is?
No.
Well,
Tell us.
and you know, the court statute laws just say certain levels in your body are considered just intoxicated. Well, it's an O2 in Georgia for anybody under 21 years of age. Which, of course, the license, same as not in school, it's going to affect your license, it's going to suspend your license, you won't be able to get them that time. But irregardless of that it's what the repercussions of it, because we got guys that do our skirt team or our specialized collision reconstruction team, and they have to come investigate these crashes when they're all prosecutable. And they say, we have teenagers that went to the prom, had a good time, you know, and enjoyed themselves, but now they partook of something they weren't supposed to, and just like our sign says, they got to the alcohol, and now they're involved in a crash, and the friend that was with them is not with them anymore. But now they're looking at going actual to prison because that's a homicide in that vehicle. So they investigate that, and now we got all these tragedies in one. So with that coming up, you know, we kind of enforce that and get out and we do the alcohol, and we try to do that anyway, anytime, but we kind of target that because we know that's kind of the night that everybody loves to go out and have they dance, and some go to other venues and kind of go a distance and take, so it's just a time that they need to be aware that they're on the road, but other people are on the road, so don't do that.
That one decision can affect the rest of your life.
Correct. And it's I don't know if you even call it a learning, because now this is done, now that's there, and I've seen it before, and we go through it, and I've seen vehicles that's different ways, and there's stuff here and here, and I got to go to somebody's house.
It's an unfortunate visit.
And they're waiting on them to come back, and they haven't come. So, that's kind of a hollow feeling, because I'm going, and when they see me at the door, they know something's not right. So I just put that out there that they're going to be out there. We'll probably have some stuff going on. I think Lafayette, I think Dade County, and of course y'all know now that crash that happened yesterday that they had lost 2 students there. Now that wasn't any of that we know of, but still, driving a vehicle is it takes a lot of attention, and not that anything happened to them to cause that, but it happens in a moment.
So quickly. All right, we're going to take a pause, pay the bills. And tomorrow, I want to remind everyone, go blue, wear blue tomorrow, April 17th. And this is to help end child abuse and neglect. So make sure you wear your blue tomorrow. Zach, let's pay the bills.
We're on the air 24/7. A North Georgia taste of heaven. A fun place to be. And we're your family. UCTV.
Dr. Carl F. Peterson Jr. has been practicing dentistry in the Rossville area for over 30 years. He and his professional staff will gently take care of all of your general, orthodontic, and cosmetic dentistry needs. Dr. Peterson is a participating provider with most insurance companies as well as HealthSpring and Medicaid, and will gladly file your insurance. He will be greeted by his friendly staff who take pride in making sure your visit is a pleasant experience. Call and schedule your smile makeover, and don't forget to mention seeing this ad on Solutions of Success to receive a 20% discount on your visit.
At Accelerated Workflow Solutions, we provide software and training in the field of voice recognition to help make computers more accessible for both medical professionals and people with disabilities. Call us at 706-375-3007. We are the Dragon People. We are Accelerated Workflow Solutions.
Absolute Fit is an all-in-one fitness and weight management center. Our mission is to provide professional-friendly support in weight management and all levels of fitness training. We are located at 3012 Lafayette Road in Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia, just before you enter the Chickamauga battlefield. Remember our motto, don't cheat your body, and mention it and receive a $20 discount towards our J-Blast program.
I knew I needed to lose some weight. I was, and I had a lot of people that had taken the class that wanted me to try it out. So I finally gave in. Said, okay, I'll do that. The exercise program is simple. It's 18 minutes a day right now, which will go up to 28 minutes a day. And I like the knowledge to know that I have to come in on Saturdays or whenever my class is, stand up in front of him and explain why I didn't do well or I did do well. So it's all about the accountability for me more than anything. Well, for me, I take my kids to school, swing by here. I'm usually, my schedule's a little more flexible than some people's, but for me, it's not about I don't have time, it's about I make time. I would find the time, I'd find that 18 minutes somewhere, even if I have a really tight schedule, I'd find that time because it's that important to me. But it's only, like I said, 5 minutes, and then our little exercise routine that we do, they're 1 minute apiece, and you just keep moving for a minute. You get 30 seconds between each one, and then another 5 minutes, and to me that's not a lot, but you can actually accomplish a lot in 18 minutes that you didn't know you could accomplish. Well, he holds you accountable, but then you feel like you've let your class down if you have to come in and explain, I gained a pound because I went out and had this party and I ate what I knew I wasn't supposed to eat. And I don't ever want to have to get up in front of them or him and tell them why I gained weight. We go through a presentation to start with. This just helps kind of restructure the way you think about things. And then all of the members in the class are very supportive. We support each other. If you've had a bad week and then you've still lost weight at the end of it, everybody's excited. Because you do have rough weeks. You have weeks where you feel like, I don't think I did what I could do, but then when you come in, you get on the scale and you've still lost weight and everybody's clapping and they're excited for you, it really makes you feel a lot better about what you felt like you didn't do so well on. For me, it's the supportiveness. It's knowing that there are other people there that'll support me no matter what. If I have a bad week, they're still supportive. If I have a good week, they're supportive. It doesn't matter. And knowing that I can come in and cry on Jack's shoulder if that's what I need to do helps me out a whole lot. And I've had bad days. I've had bad weeks. We've had to discuss. He's had to talk me down off the ledge a couple of times, but I like this knowing that they care, because you don't find that everywhere. Sometimes you go somewhere, they just give you a pill and send you on your way. He actually is all about trying to change your life and the way you think about things, and I like that about Jack. I think I walk a little taller than I did a year ago, which is pretty big. You start to feel a lot better about yourself and the way you look. And for me, that's big, because I've never felt that way. I've struggled in my entire life with stuff like that, so it's big. Since March 21st of last year, I'm down 40 pounds. Just that, I think most everybody you talk to would tell you that if I can do it, anybody can do it.
Welcome back to Solutions of Success. Now we're going to go over to Trainer Jack, and he's going to deal with some really important information regarding safety and driving.
Yeah, thank you, Paula. What we want to talk about is car setup. Not only, talking about texting, alcohol, but before you get in the car, you want to have good, proper setup. And some things we want to talk about is making sure that you have your seat properly adjusted before you start your car. Make sure you get your mirrors adjusted, the side mirrors and your rear view mirror, because you don't want any of those distractions while you're driving down the road and all of a sudden you're having to lean over to try to see what else is going around you. But we want to talk about now is the proper seating when you're driving to help relieve pressure from the neck, a lot of stress. And then we see a lot of people that's driving the car when they come in the fitness center and say, oh, my back is hurting, my shoulders, I'm getting headaches. And we'll find out that they have real bad posture when they drive, meaning they're slumped over, they're just kind of leaning out, the seat's not adjusted right, and they're stretching, trying to reach the gas pedal. And when you guys are driving, do you feel any of that at all? Or do you hear your parents say sometimes their back's hurting and the shoulders hurting?
Yeah, my mom complains.
Okay. Well, what you want to do is kind of look at them next time they're driving and say, all right, Mom, Dad, you want to sit up just a little bit straighter, kind of push the chest out, lean back a little bit, and Do you know the proper hand technique for your steering wheel?
It's like 3 and 9 o'clock or something.
3 and 9 o'clock. What if you have an airbag? And that's a good question right there for your driver's test.
Is it?
What should it be?
Yeah, it's 1, 2.
Huh?
Another?
I heard they changed it to like where you hold it at the bottom now. Bottom of the wheel.
Right.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Like 4 and 8?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And why would you do that?
Because the airbag will hurt you worse.
Right, so that's a good safety tip right there. So you want to be aware of that because you could actually harm yourself more if you actually get into an incident and the arms are in the wrong spot. So here, again, we want good posture for that, and that's going to help relieve pressure off the lower back. Also takes a lot of pressure off your neck, which when you have improper posture, you can develop a headache from that. All right, but now I'm going to show you a few stretching techniques that you can use when you're doing long driving. So when you're going to go on a trip, maybe on vacation from here to Florida, about a 7-hour trip, you're going to get really tired. And every once in a while when you stop to get gas or use the restroom, you want to do a little bit of stretching. It's kind of like an animal. If you have it in the car and you let it out to use the bathroom, what's one of the things that animal does when it first gets out? He starts stretching. But we, as humans, we don't do that so much. We just kind of overlook that and go on, or we take medication to relieve some pain or whatever it may be. But go ahead and stand up. Let me show you a few little techniques that you can use when you get out of the car. And all three of y'all can do that. You just come right over here.
All right.
One good thing to help with the back is put your hands right here on your hip and just kind of lean back and just kind of look up at the sky. And it's a good reliever right there for the abs. Another one would be is just shoulder width apart and just kind of take your hand and run it down towards your knee and just do a good side stretch. And do both sides like that. And it's really good to help relieve some tension there as well. Also, you can, for your neck, because a lot of people when they're slumped over driving or in the workplace environment, you see they get a lot of headaches and they come in and they say, oh man, I'm getting so much pressure here on my neck. And what you can do is take your hand on the side of your head and just pull sideways slightly to stretch the neck out, and do that both ways. You don't have to pull really hard, just pull it till you feel it start pulling on the opposite side of the neck. In the same way go forward and do it backwards as well too. And you can just do a few little head rolls. And that'll help relieve a lot of tension from your shoulders and your neck area. But now we'll show a few. Also, sometimes when you're driving for a long period of time, you start your legs are going to sleep, because depending on how they're on your seat, sometimes it's cutting the blood flow off or slowing it down a little bit. So just go ahead and have a seat right here. And what you'll do is go ahead and put one leg out straight, and you just scoot to the edge a little bit. And just reach out and go for that toe, and that's going to kind of stretch your hamstring out a little bit.
I can
you
feel
that? That's good. And you'll just do both sides like that. And that'll also help out with the lower back. That'll stretch your hamstring out a little bit too. And also another one for the leg is when you can get up, and depending on how good your balance is, what we'll do is just hold on to the chair right there. You put your hand right here, and you can put your hand right here. And go ahead and reach back and grab your foot and pull it up behind you, and that's going to stretch the front part of your leg. And that'll help get the blood flow going back again, help relieve a little bit of tension on that. And remember, when you're driving, if you feel yourself starting to fall asleep, always pull off to a rest stop, take a little break, try to get refreshed, and don't try to drive when you're falling asleep. That is some of the fatalities. Those are very high numbers. We can talk to the officer here if he's got any statistics on that about people falling asleep and driving. That number is pretty high, I would imagine.
It is. Well, thank you for joining us for this episode of Solutions of Success, Driving and Insurance. Be safe, God bless America, and as always, it's a great day to be in North Georgia.